Hello and welcome to the Monday Show via the Everything is Black and White podcast. Excellent start there. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined by Newcastle United Aaron Stokes. We're here to look back on a fantastic win for Newcastle United over Chelsea at St James's Park. The Magpies ran out 4-1 winners despite an injury-hit side and never really looked in any danger. We'll discuss just how United got the better of Chelsea, the standout performers and much more, including the tweets from Jamie Ruman and Midfield Kudusi on the atmosphere. There'll be a brief chat about the PSG game too, as well as the weekly trivia, but with a twist. All that to come. This is Everything is Black and White podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Let's get on with the show. Aaron, how we doing this wet and miserable Monday afternoon?
Very good, very good. Wet and miserable. I mean, I'm looking out of the window here from Chronicle Towers and the sun's coming out. And
but look at that dark, gloomy cloud over there.
well, it might be dark and gloomy outside, but it's very positive in here, isn't it? After that fantastic win
It certainly is. It certainly is. I am a little bit worried for my fantasy football team, though. And as I was telling you before, my password has stopped working and I can't seem to get on. So you're going to tell me how badly I've done.
Well, I think it's quite convenient that your password has suddenly stopped working when you comfortably bottom this week with a meager 25 points.
25 points.
And just to sum it up how bad he did, he had Arneson from Crystal Palace, 1 point. Kyle Walker, 2 points. Son, 2 points. Son obviously had about 3 goals disallowed. Diaby, 1 point. His captain was the injured Jared Bowen. Soberslide, 2 points. 2 points. And Wemo, 2 points. Solanke, 2 points. Haaland got you 7. And unless Leno has an absolute worldie tonight, you are going to be about 200 points behind me going into next week.
Awful. I thought it was bad. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. So I'm quite glad that my password has gone out of the window. But anyway, enough of that negativity. Let's talk about Newcastle United. A fantastic win on Saturday. I was confident that the Magpies, if Alexander Isak was fit, would beat Chelsea. And for me, ironically, given the subject of the tweets from two of the club's owners, which we'll discuss later, I felt the game being at home would actually give Newcastle United the advantage. That was despite the injuries, as I mentioned, and the back-to-back defeats against Dortmund and Bournemouth. And I was right. And to put it simply, St James's Park is back to being a forest.
I'm quite surprised to hear you say that you thought you were confident that Newcastle United would win if Isak was fit, because I really went into the game maybe being a little bit swept up in this talk of Chelsea being back. They've obviously had a fantastic result against Manchester City. They beat 9-man Tottenham, obviously, when we were out in Dortmund. And I went into that game thinking Newcastle's injury list continues to grow, despite us all hoping it would get better, not worse if the international break. Really wasn't sure, especially looking at that bench on Saturday, which I know we're going to talk about. I was thinking, you know what, I think they'll be lucky to get a draw. Obviously, I forgot about how much of a fortress St James's Park is. Obviously, I clearly forgot about how instrumental Alexander Isak is. And if I'm completely honest, I wasn't confident of Newcastle getting the win, and probably until the second half.
Well, I was confident going into it. I felt Isak would be the big difference. I just felt Newcastle being at home, there's something special about it. It is a fortress. Teams don't like coming here. And for all Chelsea were in great form, they'd only picked up the same amount of points Newcastle United had. And Newcastle United were clearly on a journey of tiredness towards the end of that run before the international break. And I just felt if Isak was fit enough to start, you've got a striker there who you can bet your house on. If he's one-on-one, he's going to put it in the back of the net. He did that. And yeah, I was confident going into the game. And look, there's so much to talk about with regards to Saturday. But we'll start, before we talk about the football, about the tweets from Jamie Rubin and Midfield Kudusi. So both tweeted after the game. Let me read the tweets out and then we'll dive into it. So Midfield tweeted, "What a team. We need to give these guys more support in the stadium. We need to be louder. We need to be the 12th man." Jamie Rubin replied to that tweet, "What a team. And yes, we need to match the intensity of the players with our support." Now, I have to say, I don't think the point that both are making is necessarily incorrect. I turned to my friend a few moments before half-time and did say, in my opinion, it had gone very flat after Chelsea had grabbed the goal. The second half was very different, but I don't think it was the cauldron of noise that we've come to expect. And in fairness, there's been complaints in recent weeks that the noise levels have dropped off. I mean, Dortmund is an example of that. And some have pointed out that there have been complaints for weeks, but all of a sudden you and us are the bad guys for voicing their concerns. That being said, I do think the timing of it was a little strange. You just won 4-1 convincingly. But then some might say, as I know you will in a moment, I think, if that is how you genuinely feel, then there's no wrong time to say it. You might as well say it on the back of win, on the back of a defeat. You might as well say it if that's how you feel.
No, I know we were speaking about this off air, and I did make that comment, but I was sort of just playing devil's advocate with you, and I do actually agree that I think if those comments had been made by Gadusi and Ruben at, say, the We Are United fan event last week, I don't think they would have caused a storm at all. I think the reason that they've got people's backs up so much is because, fans feel, why was Saturday evening the time to put that message out after such a convincing win? Now, it's hard. I don't want to sit on the fence, but it's hard. It's hard for me to have a really objective view on it because, one, I'm not in the crowd really, and two, when my head's in a laptop for the majority of the game, I'm not really paying attention to what it's like. But for me on Saturday, I think if you ranked it of where the atmosphere was in terms of this season, I think it would be quite high. Yes, it wasn't PSG level, but it's never going to be like that every week. Have we been spoiled by PSG at home, Arsenal at home? I remember before the PSG game was at Burnley at home, and we sat here in the spot and said how awful it was because people just wanted to get that out the way. I don't know. What do you think? You're obviously in the stands, a little bit higher than me. What did you think about Saturday in general?
I thought it started off all right, and then I thought after Chelsea grabbed the equaliser, I thought it went really flat. It was very quiet. Then you had a little spat on the touchline between Reece James and Jason Tyndall, and that sparked it up a little bit just before half time, and then obviously the goals came, and it was a totally different atmosphere in the second half. At the right moment, straight after Sterling equalised, the crowd tried to get the players lifted again. There was a huge roar, as it always is when the opposition is scored, just to try and get Newcastle United players back in the right frame of mind. But I do think the first half ended, other than that Reece James Tyndall kind of squabble, very quiet. But then it's hard to know what you expect. I'd be interested to know what Jamie Rubin and Medad Gadusi expect from the fans.
Well, for me, and I wrote about this yesterday, I think if Newcastle United were 1 up against Chelsea and Chelsea hadn't equalised, or they'd gone 2 up, we saw the second half we saw the atmosphere in the second half when they were clear and out of sight. It was really good, wasn't it? Fans were in high spirits. Now, when the games are tight and when Newcastle maybe aren't playing at the best, like Dortmund at home, I don't think you're going to get that same raucous atmosphere. And one of the points I made yesterday was just a few hours before Murdad and Jamie's tweets, you had Pep Guardiola stood on the sidelines at the Etihad. His team were beating Liverpool, and he's having to go and turn around at them and wave his arms and say, "Come on, I can't hear you." Their biggest home game of the season. I don't think you would ever get that at St James's Park if Newcastle United were beating Liverpool at home or beating Chelsea at home like that. I don't think you'd ever get Howe or any manager turning around and saying, "Come on, we can't hear you." So I get why they've said it. I don't agree with the timing of it. I think it was a weird thing to put out straight after the game, and it wasn't like Murdad. He was usually, very complimentary of the fans and the players after a win like that. But as we say, I think there maybe is something to it. But I go back to the point of, are we expecting too much? Have we been spoiled by some of the atmospheres that just can't be replicated every week?
And I wonder as well if it's a certain degree of Newcastle United now are beating these so-called big teams, and is that getting used to? We mentioned it a few weeks back, and it was actually, you mentioned the Burnley game. It was after that game where I came in and I said, it's kind of the first time I sat there. It's 70, 75 minutes or whenever Newcastle grabbed the winner, and thought you could end it now and I'd happily go home, because you expect Newcastle United to see the game out. And I just wonder if it's still getting a little bit, it's taking a little bit getting used to Newcastle beating teams at home and beating the good teams as well. I don't know if that's a bit of a cop out.
No, I think, if anything, is it not the opposite? Is it not becoming too
routine?
Is it not becoming too regular that they're beating Chelsea? They beat Chelsea at home last season, 1-0, Joe Willock. They've beaten Manchester United at home. They've beaten Arsenal at home in the last couple of months. Is it just becoming too much of a norm, these big scalps like they would have been 2 years ago? Are they not the same? I don't know. I mean, let's talk about some of the reasons for, Murdad's reply, his replies to that tweet. Hope he had his Twitter notification switched off, because there was a lot of fans in the comments saying, well, actually, the owners are maybe part of the reason that the atmosphere is not as good. There's been lots of people talking about the balloting system, lots of people talking about tourists in the home end, which obviously I don't know how true that is. Lots of people talking about the hospitality, which I know obviously you have been talking about with me off air. What is the reason for it? What's the reason for this change?
Well, I've got a viewpoint on everything you've said there. First off, I think we go down a dangerous path when we start talking about tourist fans and non-locals, because you can sit next to anyone and not really know their story. What's to say that this person doesn't fly in, for example, like you sit next to someone who's got a French accent and maybe they fly in from Paris every home game and they've been doing that for years and years, okay? And I just think we set a dangerous precedent when we start calling people out for not having Geordie accents and what have you. I do think it's a really dangerous path to go down. And, I've said it before, it matters little what accent you've got. And if you support the team and you want them to be a success, who gives a flying monkey where you're from?
No, I agree with you. And I think, there has been a lot made of that on social media. I know a lot of fans sort of joke about, if you're not from
the banks of the Tyne.
Yeah, if you're not, if you live in Durham, you're not a true mag and all that, which is just a load of nonsense. I've seen a lot of people talking about, well, bring back a singing section. I've seen a lot of people saying, either make that Gallagher corner a bigger singer section, bring it back in level 7, try get a bigger safe stand. And I mean, I don't think anyone would really disagree that it is that Gallagher corner which is the loudest and the most raucous. Do they need to maybe look at trying to expand that? I don't know, but I think what we've heard from the owners of the club in the last couple of days, especially at that fan event, is that they're going to be very, very open to speaking with fans and consulting about whether these changes that they've made, the ballot and the ticketing, is the right thing to do. And I think actually, if you put those fans back in a room with the owners and the owners say, what do you want to do? I think a lot of them would go back to the old system. And that is in terms of home tickets, away tickets, season tickets. I think the changes they've brought
finger
in,
first then.
Yeah. And I know that, Eales was speaking about the other night at the event, and he said, we consulted fans at the start of the season, and we heard from a lot of them that the fastest finger first bit wasn't acceptable for some people like teachers or people that work 9 to 5, and they can't be sat there at 9, 10 o'clock ready with their finger on the button. But I think, and on the away side fan, yes, it was a little bit of a closed shop, but you had fans that if they knew someone, they could get a ticket, no ID needed. People were still getting away to away games, not on their own points. I just think you look at what fans are talking about now, home and away, and I think the owner may be looking at it and thinking, was it that broke in the first place? Did we need to fix it? We've tried something new, and the feedback from it is pretty negative. Just to say, I was on that fan event on Tuesday night, and Matthew Racebeck, the host, had to apologise to Silverstone, Ashworth and Eales at one point because 80% of the questions that were submitted to the three of them were about tickets or ballots. That is the main issue that is worrying fans at the moment.
Yeah, it's the hot topic, isn't it? And we put out the tweet from me and Dad, and then we asked people what changes they would make, and we had lots of replies. One reply said, dedicated singing area, increase safe stand, relocate those who want to sing, scrap unlimited memberships. And they've also want the owners to join them in either the Gallagher or the Leeds, wherever this person sits. We've had quite a few people suggesting that the Gallagher end needs to be full standing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that at all.
Big changes, big costly changes, but some interesting suggestions there. And, I think the tourist claim is really interesting because there's the issue of the importance of bringing in revenue. Now, I accept it's frustrating when you don't get a ticket. My dad, for example, his lucks totally ran out the last game he was successful for in the ballot was the Crystal Palace game. But some might argue that if travelling fans from other countries have got their tickets through the legitimate ways and paid the price for it, likely to be much more than a UK-based fan, is it perhaps the cost of a successful club in terms of the need to bring in such revenue to then see that reinvested into the training ground, into the playing squad and other investments? Look, I'm not saying that is what's happened. I'm putting forward a theory. I don't know if that is what's happened. But I would say there shouldn't be anger directed at these so-called tourist fans. It should be directed at the ticketing system if there is an issue.
Yes, but I agree. But I think one thing I will say is that you look at Manchester United home games now and you look at Liverpool home games now, it's a totally different kettle of fish because they've been so successful for many years. They've got vastly bigger fan bases around the globe. But some of those Manchester United and Liverpool games, when you look and there's fans in the Manchester United home end, but they've got Liverpool kits on and Chelsea hats on, and they're taking photos of the players not watching the game. Newcastle United fans who I've spoken to don't want Newcastle United to become with that. The owners want to grow the club globally, which is absolutely the right thing to do, but they need to make sure that, you know, loyal Newcastle United fans, whether they're from home and abroad, are not losing out to these tourist fans. Now, I don't think we're at the stage that yet, and I know I've seen lots of people on social media saying there's loads of tourists around. I don't think we're getting to that stage yet where you can tell that they're not actually Newcastle United fans. But the club really need to make sure that these resale sites, these touting sites, are completely clamped down on or done in the right way.
Well, I think they're the two issues that the club should look to go out and sort straight away, or clamping down, as you said, on the resale sites, where there's, the tickets are going for 160, 200 quid a pop, which is ridiculous and should not be allowed. And also change the system in the way people get into the ground. People are having a queue 2:15, 2:30 for a 3 o'clock kickoff and still not getting in on time. That's going to dampen the atmosphere. People want to be in their seats to see what War Flag is doing. At the very least, people want to be in their seats to see the players come out and hear that final beat of Local Hero. If you're hearing that from outside the ground while they're trying to get into a turnstile, there's still 40, 50 people ahead of you, you're going to be angry. You're going to be good.
Well, but you've just jogged my memory on something there that we haven't spoke about, actually, and it's got nothing really to do with the fans. It's actually pre-match. A journalist was sat in the press box next to us the other day, and about 5 minutes before kickoff, he sort of looked for someone. It's really flat, isn't it? And I think one thing the club should probably look to do is improve that 20 minutes before kickoff. The PA system's far too loud. They're playing, random music that doesn't build the atmosphere. They need to work out a way to get that atmosphere ready before kickoff, I think. And it's not just for Premier League games. It was the same at Dortmund as well.
Got Sean says he's travelled from Canada a few times, thousands of kilometres to get their stadium tour, visit local pubs and restaurants. Lost my voice at the game. Don't think Geordie's having a monopoly on passion. If we want to join the global elite, says the mighty win, we've got to have a global fan base. You mentioned there what they could do pre-kickoff. You got any suggestions? I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying they should come out to Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Maybe some fire cannons.
Look, I don't like I'm not too keen on fire cannons or laser shows like Wolves do, but they've got to find a way, whether that's, I don't know, just updating the players to bit, it just feels flat pre-game. I don't know what your sort of role is pre-game at the ground, how quick you're in your seat before the match. But it does feel like 10 minutes before kickoff, you're sat there thinking, the stadium's filling up, but actually it's a little bit timid.
Think you rely on War Flags and they do a great job, but if you take them out of the equation, then you're just waiting for kickoff. And it's the same at half time as well. In the half time entertainment's kind of gone and it's just reading out birthday requests, which is nice, but do they need to do something else there to try and keep the attention span going, and to stop maybe everyone heading inside and then you've got empty seats to come back out. Look, it's a minefield, and the fact we can't agree on what proposals, what changes we'd put forward suggests the trouble that the likes of Darren Eales and Peter Silverstone and the owners are going to have if indeed they think something does need to change.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's not an easy fix, and I don't envy those making the decisions at the club, because you're never going to keep anybody happy. If they go back to the old system, you're going to have people complaining that they're a teacher, for example, and they can't get a ticket or whatever. You're never going to keep them happy. It is an impossible situation. But I think we've started to see the last 2-3 weeks, especially, that it's really starting to irk some of the fans.
And there was a video put out of the new rooftop suite on social media. This chap obviously goes round these suites up and down the country and videos his experience, and some of the reaction to it was I have to say a bit strange in many ways. And I go back to the original point about where Newcastle United want to go, and off the pitch you need to tap these revenue resources, and people pay a lot of money to get into these suites, and that helps. And I've also seen a lot of people dig out at hospitality, and if you look around some of the boxes in hospitality, some of the people in it have been season ticket holders, for decades, and they've just fallen lucky. They've either had a business that works really well and they can afford now to have a 3-course meal and enjoy the experience in a different way, but they do it to ensure their ticket.
And why wouldn't you, by the way, in this new system? If your dad hasn't got a ticket since Crystal Palace, and one of the colleagues that we work with has just managed to get Fulham tickets, but it's his first one since August, if you've got the money to do it, why wouldn't you guarantee your ticket like that? I mean, the Mighty Win makes a very good point here in the comment section of the video, saying if we want to join the global elite, we have to have a global fan base. And I just want to, say on the point I made about foreign fans, I'm not saying you have to be from the Banks of the Tyne. I'm just saying they do need to be careful that as they grow the fan base, which they need to do, loyal fans aren't being pushed out. And look, we were saying off air, does it bring up the point about St James's Park? Do they need to move to a bigger stadium?
Well,
and can I just say before you give your answer, I think if you'd asked fans at the start of the season, do you want to move from St James's Park, there would be probably 1% of fans open to it. I think if you ask them now, it would be much bigger.
It's interesting because I've seen a couple of people suggest the theory, and I'm not saying this is true, and we haven't got me and Dad Caducci or Jimmy Rubin on to give a right reply, but I've seen a few people suggest that, is it them, I'm going to use one of your favourite phrases, dipping their toe in the water? They put that out.
Is that one of my phrases? Is it?
Yeah, you dip the toe in the water and feel the touch. I was like Gibbo's phrase. Anyway, it's someone's phrase. I'm sure it was your phrase used last week. Is it them, maybe pushing the point and just seeing what the temperature is to maybe move in the future? Again, we don't know. I'm just again, just putting forward people's theories that I've seen on social media. What do you think?
Look, it very well may be. Look, if you're going to expand St James's Park, which I think the majority of fans would be in favour for before you even think about moving, you're probably only going to get another 10 to 15,000 seats there. If you moved stadium, they could quite easily, if they had the land, build an 80,000, 90,000 seat stadium, and that demand for tickets would go dramatically.
I just can't see it, despite all the issues and all the trouble that's flaring up. I just don't see Newcastle United moving to James Park. I just don't want it. I think there's enough. The issues that are coming up, I think the club can fix it.
Yeah,
and I think that's another reason why they'll stop at St James Park. You just don't want to lose that site, the cathedral on the hill.
Yeah, well, let us know in the comments, because we've got nearly 100 people watching live. If you want to move from St James Park, you want to stay, let us know. And I mean, this is not me suggesting it by any means. I'm just saying, is there maybe a little bit more support for it than there was at the start of the season, given how many fans can't get to games?
Well, it wouldn't be Newcastle United without a bit of drama, would it? After a lovely 4-1
we haven't even spoken about the match yet.
No, but we're about to, ladies and gents. It is coming. Goals from Alexander Isak, Jamal Lascelles, Joelington, and Anthony Gordon. I think the one thing that really stood out for me was that Newcastle United, they're just a proper team. It doesn't matter about injuries. They've clearly been managed and coached in such a way that if they're fit and full of energy, whoever is playing should fit straight in to the system. It just seems everyone's got a bit of fight about them. They play for the shirt, they play for each other. You understand the system that they're dropped into. While Chelsea, you look, all the money they spent, goodness me, they're just a team of individuals.
They are, and I think it's absolutely laughable when you look at some of the fees that they've paid for players that, I mean, just do not look like they can cut it at this level or do not play for the team. I mean, I know we're going to talk about Enzo Fernandez after being pocketed by Lewis Miley. 107 million for him, don't see it. You've got 115 million pounds Caicedo on the bench, Mudryk nearly 90 million on the bench. And I think I maybe got swept up in this pre-match thing of, they're back, they've scored 8 goals in 2 games. Well, actually, they'd also conceded 4 to City, and they've had 19 goals in total in the last 3 games alone. They were an absolute shambles second half. They had a little period in the first half where I thought, okay, Sterling got that goal. They looked sharp. They looked very good on the counter attack. But at the back, they are just all at sea, and Newcastle made them pay.
You could see it in the first half. There was times when Newcastle United were quite literally camped in that final third of Chelsea's half. And there was one moment when the ball went out, and you could see the other centre-back, De Silva and Cucurella, kind of looking at each other and gesturing, and there just didn't seem to be any unison. And that was the one thing that I was really hoping would come out in the second half, was that Newcastle United would try and press them a bit more and have a bit more urgency, because I felt Newcastle United were quite good in the first half. They were decent without really, doing too much.
Something was missing in the final
Yeah.
third, I thought, apart from that Isaac goal.
But I always felt like Chelsea were there for the take, and
Mhm.
even despite the fact that they got the equaliser, and I was really hoping that Newcastle would come out in the second half, all guns blazing, and just get in the face of Chelsea, because you could see if you pressed them with a little more urgency, you would have them. And I think that's probably what happened at half time. I think Jason Tindall anyhow sat them down and said, get into their faces, because they will not handle the press. Look, Sanchez, he's a flapper. They weren't putting the ball in the box for me enough in the first half. They weren't pushing him hard enough. They weren't pushing the centre backs when they had the ball, passing it around their own box. Second half, totally different. They came out with so much more urgency and intense. And within a few moments, it paid off.
That press was electric, wasn't it, second half? And I mean, that Joelington goal sums it up. Straight from kickoff as well. I always laugh, when you watch a match of the day and there's a goal scored, and then the next replay starts from the centre circle, and you're thinking, okay, someone's coming already. But it was, Chelsea started, and if Chelsea thought, okay, this is our time to bounce back, within 60 seconds the game was killed. And that was because Joelington, from the start, pressing Thiago Silva, making him make that mistake. And even at 3-1, when the game was pretty much dead, that move for the fourth goal with Gordon was the move as if it was 0-0. It was right, okay, we need to go out and score. There was no taking the foot off the pedal until it was 4-1. I love the fact that there was 10 or so minutes to go, and they were just keeping the ball like a training game. Really, really smart performance second half. And I think, as you say, Chelsea were there for the taking, but Newcastle really made them look foolish in that second half.
It certainly did. And just a word on, obviously, Isaac, great to see him back and amongst the goals. Really good finish. As I said earlier in the show, one-on-one, you're betting him to put in the back of the net. But Lewis Miley, 17 years of age. We spoke about him last week, about how good he was looking. You've mentioned he bullied Fernandez, didn't he? And it was just a superb assist from him.
And I mean, Enzo Fernandez must be sick to death of playing Lewis Miley, because that's the second time in a number of months that Lewis Miley's absolutely, made him look like he's the academy player, and Miley's the £100 million signing. I mean, just on that, just on the goal, the Isaac goal, I mean, the temptation for Lewis Miley to hit that, because I mean, remember Matty Longstaff against Man United on that debut when he wheels away in front of the Gallagher? Lewis Miley must have been thinking, this is it, Lee's end, first home start, what a chance to score.
Perhaps shows a bit of maturity in that.
Well, that's what Eddie Howe said. Eddie Howe had a brilliant quote after the game. He said, yes, I asked Eddie Howe, how much better can Lewis Miley get? And he said, well, he can improve athletically, technically, tactically, physically, but what he does have at the minute is a brilliant brain. And his brilliant brain, made him see that assist when nobody else did. I don't think even Isaac saw that pass coming when it came. And it's also allowed him to stay grounded despite all this fanfare around him. I mean, fantastic assist, but not even just the assist. I thought the entire performance in that first half, he's getting the ball, and before it's even gotten him, his body's open. He's playing it out to Trippier. He's making those Sean Longstaff runs in behind, isn't he? Where he's trying to get into the box when Trippier or Miggy have got the ball. Really, really mature performance. I can't wait to see more from him. And the thing is now, with Longstaff still out and Willock looking like he's really had a bad setback, we're going to probably see Lewis Miley, 1, against Paris tomorrow, and 2, until Christmas and beyond, I think.
Tell you what, if you're Elliot Anderson, you've probably smashed a few mugs against the wall, haven't you? I mean, you'll be happy for your teammate, but you'll be so frustrated. But you're right, there was that one moment in the second half when Miley did what we will call a Longstaff run into the box, and you just think and just hit it, because it was practically the same area of the box that Longstaff scored against PSG.
Yeah.
And Miley just took a touch and he tried to get on his left foot, and then he gets challenged. You think, if you hit that, it's into the corner. But, that'll come in time. And I think the fact he looks so to him already, the confidence will build, where he will feel that he's in the position to shoot and he will get the ball more. But look, he's already building the foundations.
He is massively. And I think if we go back to the Bournemouth game before the international break, obviously it was a really dismal performance from the team. But even Miley then, really tough game to be thrown into, on the South Coast, away from home, poor conditions. Newcastle really struggled with injuries. And yes, he didn't set the world alight, but you thought, okay, he looks really comfortable. But it seems like, that home game against Chelsea on Saturday, he just took it to the next level. I mean, he was really, really comfortable. And not just comfortable in terms of dealing with Gallagher and Fernandez and Ugachukwu. He was constantly asking for the ball. He's constantly facing up the ball and saying, "Give me it in the middle of the park." A bit like Anderson's done the last couple of months, where he's not shying away from wanting it. And that will be a lot of Eddie Howe saying, "You are in this team because you merit it." Um, and I mean, it just another word on Howe speaking to us after the game, coming out and talking about Miley, saying that you know we will never stand still with him. Yes, he's got moments to improve, but we will get the best out of him. And for a young player, it must be fantastic to hear that from your coach.
Can you imagine when he fills out a little bit? We saw with Anderson, he came back from last season to this season.
Bigger,
He was in the gym. He looked stronger, more muscle about him. When Miley does exactly the same in the summer to come, he's still got a few years yet to develop. He's going to be some player, isn't he?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, look, he's only 17. I think I've got to try and keep the feet on the ground a little bit with him because, but the early signs of him have been absolutely fantastic. And everybody you speak to at the club says not only is a fantastic player, he's so grounded. And I think he'll need that in the next couple of years. But in terms of how he's started, it's fantastic. And I hope he starts at PSG tomorrow,
I think
which it looks like he will. Because that'll be an absolutely fantastic achievement.
I think even if Willock hadn't picked up the injury, I think it would have been Miley in the team against Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he would have gone with Willock. But Bruno's commented on Miley.
Yeah.
There's a few expletives in the quote, but a big praise for him. And it's really important, is it, for these young lads, because we saw a few of them come off the bench, Diallo, and Dwiney and Alex Murphy, that they've got these leaders around them, like Bruno, like Trippier, like Dan Burn, people who can just put the arm around the shoulder and just take that kind of responsibility off Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall to a certain extent.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a great quote from Ben Parkinson after the Bournemouth game where he came on and he said, as he was running on the pitch, Trippier sort of grabbed him and said, "Just play with a smile on your face and
enjoy it
and put yourself about. That's all you can do." Which again must be fantastic for these young players. It was really, really good to see because, as I touched on at the top of the episode, I looked at that bench on Saturday and I thought, I'm a little bit worried. If Newcastle are chasing the game, who can they bring on? It was extra special to see that they were so clear, so far ahead of Chelsea. They had the opportunity to bring some of these players on. It was absolutely fantastic.
Roger says Miley looked like a young Bruno. How good is that? And fair play to Bruno also looking after him a bit too. You mentioned there the three that came on. And I love the fact that Dwiney comes on. He's a forward and he just fits straight into that forward role by chasing Chelsea down. I don't know if he got a touch of the ball. I don't think, bless him, Diallo managed to get a touch of the ball, but great to see them listen to the instruction and just doing what Newcastle need to do to continue that high press with 5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, third choice striker, some would say, maybe, if you were that impressed with them.
Behave yourself. You've still got a little way to go yet. Alex Murphy, though. Now, look, the other two, as we say, didn't really have much of an impact. Their chance will hopefully come down the line. But Alex Murphy, we knew that this kid has got potential. Comes over from Ireland, very impressive on the United States tour in the summer. And he comes on, and bearing in mind Newcastle United have comfortably won this game, he's not switched off. There was still a job to be done. There was one or two. I mean, there was one superb challenge that he gets the ball, gets back up onto his feet, and carries it forward. There was enough in that 5-minute cameo from Alex Murphy just to remind Eddie Howe, I'm still here. I'm still fighting for my place.
Yeah, and if I'm honest, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him this season because of how well he did. One, at the back end of last year. Two, how he's done in the under 23 squad. And actually, as you say, he got took on that America trip and he didn't look out of place. I know it's pre-season, you can't judge too much from it. But he looks like a real talent, very versatile, can play centre back, left back. And hopefully we see a little bit more of him in the coming weeks.
We're talking about youngsters. We haven't even mentioned Tino Livramento.
Yeah.
Starting. Fantastic again.
Yeah, another really good game from him. He just doesn't seem to put a foot wrong, whether he's playing left back, right midfield. Such an engine on him. I thought he had a really, really good first half. And the thing with Livramento, and it's something that, is no secret, but he offers so much more going forward than Dan Burn ever will. And that's, one thing. How many times we saw in that first half, he knocks the ball out of goal and then bang, he's straight on the overlap. And I think it's a really, really good weapon. But as I've said, I mean, if anybody was having doubts about the fee they had to pay for him in the summer and the injury that he was carrying, I mean, it's starting to look like a little bit of a steal, isn't it?
Newcastle United, they could be renamed the £40 million bargain team, because you've got Anthony Gordon, £40 million, Tino Livramento, and it's looking in today's market like a great price to pay for those two, with their best shares ahead of them. We've got plenty of comments going on about the whole St James's Park debate. Roger says it's a bigger picture. Hard call. I said when we were Dortmund that the hierarchy would have seen a lot at their ground. Commercial opportunities, let alone 80,000 seats. I love St James's Park. Stunted ? So it seems like Rogers maybe suggesting staying at St James's Park will stunt the growth of the club. The Mighty Win says if Newcastle apply for plan permission for an out-of-town stadium, so quickly the listed buildings problem would disappear. That's the Mighty Win's opinion. I've said it before. Those listed buildings need to remain untouched. As much as I'd love St James's Park to be expanded, them listed buildings are as much a part of this city's culture as the stadium is. I mean, there's a bit of frustration actually from season ticket holders in the comments. Being a season ticket holder for years, says Peter, and I get frustrated looking around me at familiar faces who are also there at every game but never make any contribution to the atmosphere. And there was one earlier in the show as well. Let me just find it. To coin a phrase, says the thing is, he is right. Talking about me and Dad and Jamie Rubin. I sit in the East Stand and I'm sick of singing on my own. Dortmund was a disgrace. Too many old knackers around me. It's an aging fan base, and that's maybe not one of the arguments we've seen. And I again, those of a certain age are just as welcome to James's Park as fans not from Newcastle. We don't want no one deserves to be excluded. But interesting that some season ticket holders are blaming other season ticket holders. There's definitely a bit of divide within the fan base. Hopefully, it can be sorted sooner rather than later. Now, I do want to just quickly talk about the fact that I think when Newcastle United have that light bulb moment, and I, again, assume it happened in the interval where Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall said, get into them. When they smell blood, when they sense the kill, they're really good at going after it. And they did it again on Saturday.
Yeah, they are. The pressing from the front's fantastic. Gordon's relentless work is key to it as well. Isak as well. I mean, I know there's lots being made about Callum Wilson in recent weeks, and lots to talk about his future. Isak just offers that little bit more, doesn't he? Presses from the front, his link-up plays better. And Joelington from midfield was absolutely on it with that press. And I think I know we might actually be talking about it now, but that press has got to be up there with the best in the league, hasn't it? I mean, it's insatiable. Yeah, well, I think I'd agree.
The way they force the opposition into mistakes, don't give them a moment's rest, and it's constant as well. It's throughout the 90 minutes, which not many teams can handle. And again, look, if Eddie Howe's watching, you might be. Hello, invite me in. I would love to come and have a training session and we put through my paces, do the bleep test. I want to see
what you reckon you'd last.
30 seconds and be on the floor, I think. But they're just so fit, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're ridiculously fit. And I mean, on the flip side, is that why they've got 14 players with some PSG? Maybe.
Well, you can take 6 or 7 out of them out of that equation
course.
because of ridiculous injuries.
Of course, yeah. No, they are. They're ridiculously fit, and I think it goes back to what we were saying in previous episodes about making sure that these transfers in January are if they're not physically fit and they haven't been at teams where that pressing's relentless, it will probably take them a couple of weeks to get up to speed. It probably did with Anthony Gordon. I mean, he came out on the record and said, I came from Everton and it took me so long to get up to speed with Eddie Howe because of how much he demands from you in training. But look, it's working wonders. Teams just can't deal with it, especially at home.
And what else is really refreshing, where 40 minutes in, it's the first time I've said the word, is that when Newcastle United need a so-called plan B, i.e. Chelsea sat back in that first half and Newcastle took the game to them. Now, a lot of people said, well, that's where Chelsea are really good at. Soak it up, hit you on the counter. The once or twice it happened, they looked a little bit dangerous, but you were never really scared of Chelsea, I don't think. But Newcastle United didn't look uncomfortable taking the game to Chelsea. Most teams can either do one thing really well and the other thing not so really well, but Newcastle United seem to be able to handle both elements of that game, i.e. the pressing on one hand, or if you need to take the game to the opposition, they seem to do it really well.
Yeah, they did, and I think just on that Chelsea point, I thought we haven't mentioned him yet in the show, but Trippier in that first half was very, I know he obviously gave the free kick away, which is contentious anyway, for the first goal, but I thought him and Livramento were really good at stopping those counter attacks in the first half. Fabian Schär as well. Don't think I've seen him mentioned that much, but for me, that was one of his better games. I thought again he was fantastic. But they did it, and I think in years gone by, Newcastle at home to Chelsea, you wouldn't have Newcastle put them on the back foot like that at all. And again, it goes back to what we were saying. Is it becoming routine now that actually it doesn't matter really what team comes to St James Park, apart from maybe Manchester City, you're going to see this Newcastle United team, really, really putting pressure on them. So yeah, look, it was just a very, very solid, complete performance.
100%. And we've got Jamal Lascelles with the header. Very happy for him because he made a couple of mistakes, but he composed himself. He got himself together, and then it's a superb header. Superb header.
Really
terrible
good
defending. But
Yeah, terrible defending. Fantastic cross from Gordon. You said off air it was one of the best you've ever seen.
I was
think
going to get to that question. That cross was unbelievable.
I mean, it was a very good cross.
You ask Alan Shearer or Malcolm McDonald what they would have given for a cross like that.
Well, you can ask Gibbo on Thursday to ask Supermac what he would have given for a cross like that. Look, it was very good. It was fun. To be fair, the full move was fantastic because the move actually starts in Newcastle's own half from Trippier, who picks up it was either a short free kick or a throw-in, works it across the back four, and within 4 or 5 moves, it's in Gordon's feet and it's on Lascelles' head. What on earth he was doing up there, I've got no idea, but very well taken. And as you said, there was a couple of moments from Lascelles where he was a little bit shaky at the back. Fabian Schär had to rescue him once or twice, but delighted for him to get the goal. But yeah, was it the best cross I've ever seen? I'm not sure, but it was
Probably
very
up there, right?
I mean, it was very good.
I mean, what else are we counting? Rob? I mean, we can't count Rob Lee's pass to Shearer. That's not really a cross. It's a pass.
I couldn't really think I've given it too much thought, to be honest. Maybe that can be.
What was the goal? What was that? Who crossed it? Was it Alan St Maximin to Isaac Hayden when Newcastle beat Chelsea?
Was that not straight from a corner? Or was it
No, it was like a last-minute winner, wasn't it? That was a good little cross.
Yeah.
That. I mean, there's been plenty. Keith Gillespie against Barcelona put in 1 or 2 as well. But yeah, what a cross by Anthony Gordon. Let's talk about Anthony Gordon then, because he gets his goal as well. He gets the 4th. And look, Gareth Southgate, if you are watching, right, Anthony Gordon is the man that you need, but you do not deserve, because you're not giving him the credit that he deserves. Fantastic performance by Anthony Gordon yet again. He gave Reece James an absolute nightmare of an afternoon. Got him sent off in the end. You could see he couldn't handle his pace. He couldn't handle his intent. He was just direct, Anthony Gordon. Every time he got the ball, he wanted to take the full back on. Look, he's just getting better and better every single week.
He is, yeah. His energy levels just never seem to diminish. Very, very good first half at putting James on the back foot and really having a go at him and driving at him. Now, James, I know he has his problems with injuries and stuff, but on his day is probably the league's best right back behind Trippier. And then second half, he was just absolutely turning it on. And I've waited patiently 43 minutes before bringing it up, but Anthony Gordon moves into the central striker role and scores a goal. Hang on, why you
Doesn't it come from the flank though, and he cuts inside?
No. If you watch the run he makes, he's stood behind Badashile in a striker role, comes behind him, perfectly timed run, befitting of Alan Shearer really, and then takes it and scores.
Befitting of Alan Shearer.
Well, that's all I'm saying.
What is in that bottle? Is it definitely water?
Yeah. All I'm saying is it was a fantastically taken goal from Anthony Gordon in the central striker position.
Despite the results and the goal scorers and where Anthony Gordon may or may not have been playing, it doesn't change the fact Newcastle United need a third striker in January.
I'm just saying it was a very, very good goal from Newcastle United's current third choice striker in that position.
It was a very good goal.
Next question.
But yeah, I mean, Eddie Howe will be, I think, very happy he didn't get an England call up Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
We saw on Saturday why. Very re-energized.
But the one thing I will say about that is, yes, in hindsight, it probably is good because he managed to wrap him in cotton wool. Only 2 England games left before the Euros, 2 friendlies against Brazil and Belgium in March. You're thinking really that's his last opportunity. I can't see Southgate calling up a player for the Euros that he hasn't given a chance. And when you actually look at some of the players like Callum Wilson, who isn't assured of a spot, Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling are probably all ahead of Gordon in the pecking order, but they've been in and around the last few squads. So I'm just thinking, has he maybe missed the boat for the Euros? I think, look, he's still got time on his side, but I think it'll be it's starting to look a little bit tricky to see him and Longstaff playing next summer.
And the very fact that I agree with you just shows you how ludicrous Gareth Southgate's logic is behind picking his side. I mean, why on earth you're not doing it based on a form is it just blows my mind. He's the informed player in that position, arguably, alongside Raheem Sterling, who got a bit of stick from Newcastle United fans. Those two could feel very aggrieved not to be in. And it doesn't do anything for my love of international football at all when a player like Gordon is missing out. But from a Newcastle point of view, you will certainly take the rest that he's had over the last couple of weeks. Joelington, he got the third goal. First goal of the season for him. Really important that he got that goal on Saturday, I felt, because he missed the header in the first half. I mean, it was harder to miss than it was to put it in the back of the net. I think that header, the one he missed against Dortmund, another header, plus the shot that he fired into the Leazer's ends midway through the first half when you've got to get that on target. Because
I mean, it shouldn't really have been shooting, I don't think. I think
it was opened up.
He got peer pressure into that.
Chelsea were backing off. If you're gonna, I mean, the opportunity was there, but if you're gonna take it, you've got to get it at least on target. I think he needed the goal because I think it's always in your mind and not really at the back of it. I think it's quite at the front of it. When it comes to Joelington, great in midfield. He's a tank. He's got the muscle. He's got the energy. He can pick a pass. He can get the tackling. But one thing he's not very good at is scoring goals. And I think that goal on Saturday is more than just a goal for him.
I'm going to disagree on you with that. I think the last year, Joelinton's actually got much better in front of goal. And there's been periods in the last couple of months, admittedly not this season, where he's actually, put a little run together of scoring. I go back to sort of the Tottenham games and the West Ham games last year where he was playing out on the left. Look, they're missing the first half. I watched it back on Match of the Day and I think it's harder than it looks. It's still criminal that he hasn't put that on target. But look, let's not dwell on the negatives. Let's talk about how good that press was. And also let's talk about the fact that he did not need to hit that as hard as he hit it on Saturday. He absolutely wellied it from about 5 yards out.
Be honest, right? Be honest. Was a small part of you not thinking he's running through here? He's going to miss that.
No, if I'm completely honest, I thought as soon as he took it off Silver, I thought he was going to score.
You see, I
was just laughing at how hard he hit it, just to make sure.
I think that reaffirms just how important that goal was. I think it's much more than just a goal for him.
And actually, watch his celebration back, and he looks angry more than anything. He looks, it's that classic thing when Bruno scores and he looks like he's absolutely fuming. And my partner actually said that was when we were watching Match Today, and she goes, "Doesn't Joelington and Bruno always look angry when they score?" And you look, and he was sort of, chest pumping, and it must have been a little bit of relief after that first half.
I think because he'll be frustrated at the chances that he's missed in recent weeks. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think what we might see in the next few weeks actually is him go on a bit of a goal scoring run. And I think that's why it's much more than just a goal against Chelsea. I think it could be the springboard to 5 or 6 to follow.
Hopefully. Well, I mean, like I said, last season there was a little run he put together, and I thought, okay, he's definitely improved that part of his game. He's maybe playing in a little bit of a deeper position this season. But look, it was very good. And actually, I was more rather than the finish, I was more impressed with just, how much pressure we put on Thiago Silva from that pass back to him. He really made that goal. He deserved it.
Yeah, bless Thiago Silva.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Look.
I mean, I spent the View from the Opposition episode last week with Scott Trotter from Football London, just basically writing a love letter to Thiago Silva. I love the fact he's 39. I love the fact that he's still playing at a really high level and looking like a good defender. It's my fault. Sorry, Thiago. What can I say? But goodness me, when he fell on his backside in the first half, and from then on, it was all downhill for him.
One thing I will say is just I know. Chelsea did look a bit challenged. I thought Badashila at the back looked okay. Conor Gallagher looks like he's definitely improved. Sterling was okay at points in the first half. But apart from that, I can't really give them any compliments. I mean, Cucurella was terrible. Fernandez just couldn't deal with Miley. Cole Palmer was really quiet. They were really quite poor at times, Chelsea.
Oh, definitely. But Newcastle made them look poor because they're dangerous still, Chelsea, on the break. And if you don't punish them and you don't force them to make mistakes, then they will punish you. Be honest with me again, when Anthony Gordon goes down holding his leg.
Yeah, I was thinking. And actually, because of the way he twisted when he did it, I thought, okay, that looked really bad, especially how close we were to it. I think, I can't remember specifically, but I think I had my head in my hands for a good 30 seconds until I saw him go.
And also, we mentioned Joelington and Bruno looking angry. Joelington and Bruno, they make my heart kind of jump every time they go in for a tackle.
Oh, I mean, Bruno on Reece James was
close.
I mean, he got lucky not to catch him with the initial foul when he comes storming in, and then obviously he catches him with the arm. Look, I think a yellow was probably fair, but it was naughty from him. I mean, he knew what he was doing.
They can be very hot-headed, and it's going to
Oh,
cost
yeah.
Newcastle at some point in the season, I think.
Well-
I don't know what the remedy is, because you take that kind of passion, you take that kind of fireness out of them, you lose a player.
But I think sometimes it can they need to know how to channel it. I mean, Arsenal, I don't want to harp back to it, but look how lucky was Bruno to stay on the pitch. Could have been sent off for 2 or 3 separate incidents. And I was I didn't watch the Brazil-Argentina game, but I was reading about it the morning after because of how much controversy there was. And Goal give their player ratings, and they give Bruno a 5 out of 10, and they said physically he was up for the game, but football-wise, he did nothing. And I think sometimes that's the issue, isn't it? When Bruno's in that mind and he's charging about like a headless chicken, sometimes you just want to say, okay, you can do that, but also when you get the ball, you just need to channel it. You know, you don't need to be running around and elbowing Jorginho in the head off the ball.
Well, there was a coming together, wasn't it, between either Bruno and Joelington and Fernandez, and it did require someone just to kind of push him away and say, right, calm down, and get out of there. But yeah, fantastic to see them two. Well, and do you know what? I'm saying it makes us worry, but actually, you kind of love it.
You need it, don't you? You do need a little bit of that fight in the midfield. And I do like it when the two of them are together.
I do indeed, and then I just want to make the point about something else that stood out for me. I don't know what you think, but in the first half, it seemed like Joelington, Miley, and Bruno were all guilty of maybe stepping up too much, and it left a lot of space, I felt, for Chelsea when they did eventually break. In the second half, along with that intensity and intent from Newcastle, it just seemed that maybe they'd been told, one or two of them, just to sit back or don't go and don't dive in as quick as you had been.
There was a couple of times in that first half where Trippier or somebody crossed the ball in, and Sanchez would gather it, and straight away Sanchez goes for that long ball up the pitch to Jackson. And you saw that sometimes it was just Lascelles and Cher there, and I was thinking, okay, maybe they're looking a little bit exposed with Chelsea countering at such pace in the first half at times when you had Miley, Joelington and Bruno, the three, and they're all going forward. There was a couple of times I thought, okay, they're looking a bit exposed. I thought they managed it well. But it was interesting, Miley playing in a much different position this time. He played very deep against Bournemouth, sort of holding midfielder. Howe clearly sees him in the short term as a midfielder going forward, which again is just going to push Bruno probably back into that deeper role where fans will argue all day long whether that's his best position.
Indeed. But what we'll do now is we'll just quickly hear from Eddie Howe, who was asked about Anthony Gordon and Lewis Miley. Here's what he had to say on those two players.
I've not thought about that, and I'll never give you a number on that. I think that the important thing for Anthony is he continues to perform in the way that he has. I thought he was very good today. I think he was a constant menace for them down that left-hand side. As I said earlier, I thought his ball for the second goal was exceptional piece of play that probably wins us the game. And his finish at the end just highlights a growing confidence in front of goal, I think. I think he's mentally in a really good place. Yeah, you're asking someone that believes in coaching and believes in improvement. I always have done, so I believe he can get this huge growth in his every area of his game, really, athletically, physically, technically, tactically. And we'll look to do that with Louis. We'll never stand still, and we'll look to continually help him. But what he has got already is just a brilliant brain, and I think that brain's allowed him to play so well today. We saw that during pre-season with the calmness in his performances. He really is a level-headed lad. I think that will really help him in this moment to just take today as it was. Don't get too high, and on to the next game.
So there was Eddie Howe. Firstly, talking about Anthony Gordon. We don't know what the question was because I don't have mics. Can I have a guess?
Mm-hmm.
How many goals he should score this season?
Yeah, that was it.
Yes. There's my trivia for the afternoon. And then secondly, talking about Lewis Miley, as Aaron explained earlier in the show. And I just think the key point to take out of that is Eddie Howe just talking about Miley keeping his feet on the ground and just taking it one game at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he sort of alluded to the answer that, that calmness and that brilliant brain that he's got, which I thought was a great quote, will allow him to just take this game, okay, not get swept up into the hype and everyone's talking about him and praising him, and making sure that if he does start against Paris tomorrow, it's just,
another game.
It's another game. That's Eddie Howe's mantra, isn't it? you move on the game as soon as the other one's done.
Certainly do. And I just want to make one more point about the Chelsea game. It felt like a training exercise at the end, just passing it around. Chelsea couldn't be bothered. Sterling was an embarrassment. I thought when they went down to 10 men, you could just see he was gesturing, but he didn't fill in for James after he went off. It echoed, for me, a game under Steve Bruce at Newcastle United during COVID, where it was just so easy for Chelsea. It was actually like a training session for them. And here we are now. Despite Chelsea's massive squad and Newcastle's injuries, and Newcastle United are passing it around without a care in the world. It's a mark of how far they've come. And I just want to make the point on excuses. United had 11 first-team players out. 11. You've got the Champions League coming up, a must-win game. Man United after that, you've back-to-back defeats, and you've got an informed Chelsea. And Eddie Howe beforehand didn't make any excuses. And if they'd lost, he wouldn't have done either. Let me read you these comments from Steve Bruce after the aforementioned 2-0 defeat to Chelsea in 2021. We were excellent in the second half, and in the first half, we found it very difficult. The way they played, the system they had, 2 inside forwards, we didn't deal with it well enough. Second half, we got to grips with it, and we're more aggressive, lots of positives. First half was very difficult for us. 10 to 15 minutes ago, we can ask a question. We're disappointed with the first half, if I'm being brutally honest, and we got back in the game in the second half. Defending, you leave yourself a bit exposed with pace of Timmy Winner, Callum, Hudson-Odoi, and Tammy Abraham up front. They're top-class players. You have to get that balance right, and we're still working on that. This is it. We've been hit with COVID, illnesses and injuries, but it's all part and parcel of the season. All teams are struggling with all games we're playing, and we've just got to keep going. I expect to fight from us. There's 6 or 7 or 8 teams in the bottom half with a long way to go and a lot of games to play. If we show that spirit like we did in the second half, we'll be all right. I mean, there is a load to pick out from that, but just listen to it. The difference between Eddie Howe and Steve Bruce, because I believe that if you're a manager who pushes excuses beforehand, and let's be honest, Howe, more than most, would have been valid in doing so. But if you are that sort of manager, you've handed the advantage to the opposition without a ball being kicked. You lower the expectation within the squad with excuses. They think, okay, we lose here, it's not too bad because we've got 11 injuries, they've been form, etc., etc. But that's just not Eddie Howe.
No, it isn't at all. And I think, we sometimes joke, don't we, that Eddie Howe gives nothing away, but actually, he has to be praised for the way he handles the media, because there's never any excuses. And yes, we sort of say, Eddie, come on, let your feet off the ground sometimes, but the fact he doesn't means that Newcastle are so successful and they're so, repeatedly successful. It isn't just a blip. This is the Newcastle United, and it's the way they're going to be under Eddie Howe. Just back to, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's all about the players in that moment. Look, you forget Dan Burn, forget Callum Wilson, forget Sean Longstaff, forget Joe Willock. It's all about those 16, 17 players who could be involved on a match day. Whereas under Steve Bruce, it was always about, let's feel sorry for ourselves. And I genuinely do think you might as well give a goal to the opposition if that's your way of thinking.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe just concentrates on what he can affect within those 90 minutes of football.
Yeah, he does, absolutely. And I think just one thing I'd say on the first point you made before you brought Steve Bruce into it and about Chelsea is, look, so much has been made about how much they've spent, £1 billion over 3 transfer windows, and that's the type of performance, that's the type of team showing you're putting out. And I think, again, it shines a light on how well Newcastle United have done. In that pitch on Saturday, Tino Livramento signed for 30 million, Gordon 40 million, Isak 63 million, Bruno 35 million. Yes, they're not cheap players, but every single one of them fits the system, knows how Eddie Howe wants them to play, plays for each other, and has vastly improved Newcastle United. You look at that Chelsea team and you think, as you say, it's just a team of individuals that have been cobbled together. And I think one thing that really, felt extra sweet about that win on Saturday was, look at Newcastle United's bench, £12 million on Matt Ritchie, the others were all free. Chelsea brought off Caicedo for 150 million, Mudryk for 90 million, Madueke for 30 million. £230 million on 3 players. Probably cost more than Newcastle United's entire 11, and that was the result.
Nearly cost as much as the club cost
Exactly,
Managerial in the
exactly.
yeah.
3 substitutes.
Ridiculous, but yeah, fantastic from Newcastle United. Quick 3 questions then on PSG, obviously, tomorrow. What does that result and performance by Newcastle United do for the confidence heading into that game, which is a must-win game?
Must-win game, but that will do them the world good. And likely, the only one decision Eddie Howe has to make before tomorrow's game is, does he bring Lewis Hall back in? I probably think that he doesn't, which means it's going to be unchanged. I would say that's going to do them the world of good, knowing that the bulk of those players played the majority of that game on Saturday.
Monaco were beaten 5-2 by PSG on Friday. Does that extra day's rest give PSG an advantage?
Look, maybe. Newcastle United are travelling over as we speak. They're going to train at the Parc des Princes tonight. PSG have had all weekend off. Look, maybe. One thing I'd be more concerned about is how well PSG have played at home in the other Champions League games. I mean, I know we can talk about how well Newcastle did in the 4-1 win, but I mean, they made light work of Milan and Dortmund at home. I'd be more concerned about that.
I think what we need to see from Newcastle is when you get your chances, which will be limited.
Yeah.
You've got to take them. If Joelington gets another header like he did against Dortmund, that's got to be in the back of the net.
It looked like against Milan away in the San Siro, first game away, they looked really shell-shocked at times. Dortmund, they looked better, but they still looked like they were a bit, it's their second game on the European stage. They're in front of the yellow wall. Dortmund are a very compact and well-drilled side. Hopefully they've learned enough from those two games to say, right, okay, we need to try and give it to PSG as much as we can.
He'll be clinical. We've mentioned Joe Willock. He won't be available. I mean, that's a big blow, isn't it?
Huge blow. I mean, and not just for PSG, but I think just if it's a recurrence of that Achilles injury, we're probably talking weeks or months on the sidelines, which is just going to stretch them even further, especially when you add in the fact that Sean Longstaff is not going to be involved tomorrow. We were all sat here at the international break thinking, oh, well, they've got 2 weeks off. They'll get a couple of players back. They've actually somehow managed to get, worse, if anything. So, yeah, it's a huge blow for Willock personally as well. He's done so much work behind the scenes to get back. He'll be really devastated to miss out on that.
But no excuses from Eddie Howe.
Exactly.
They have to win. Will they win? Can they win? They can win, obviously.
They can win. Obviously, it's Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. But
do you think the fact that they have to win, will that change Eddie Howe's approach? Will he just say, right, you've got nothing to lose here? Or do you think we'll see that more against AC Milan at the start of December?
I don't know. I don't know whether Eddie Howe changed. I think every game, Dortmund away, Milan away, would have been the exact same. I think he's always one of them to go out there and win no matter what.
Yeah, he's always one. But I'm just saying in terms of will the message to win be slightly different? I.e., it is always, you can win this game. This is how we do it. But given what's at stake, is it kind of, okay, will we see them a bit more attacking? Will we see them a bit more let off the leash?
Maybe. I think Eddie Howe will also need to be, he'll be aware that it's PSG away, and if you go gung ho, you go attacking against these type of teams, Mbappe will undoubtedly pick you off. One thing I will say that I found really, really interesting is Eddie Howe obviously had made his players train at Benton for Milan. Obviously, they got delayed and were late for the press conference. He made them train at Benton for Dortmund, and this time around has let them train at the stadium.
I'm laughing because I know you've got a real issue, haven't you? Like this is what you keep bringing up. This whole you think they should have been training it.
Yeah, of course they should have. And Eddie Howe came out and he was in a really spiky and defensive mood in Milan, and he said it's overrated. It's just a stadium. And you thought, Eddie, it's not though. It's like they should have been training in the stadium the night before every time. I know it's something that I've probably brought up every single week, but it's the hill that I'll die on. And I'm glad that finally they're gonna do it and change their preparation.
He's listening to you. Roger says an extra
He's
day's
on the plane,
rest.
he's not listening.
They get Wi-Fi on them posh planes. Extra day's rest and travel, but we are class, says Roger. Les says PSG had too much time on the ball. Newcastle, if they play like they did on Saturday, we won't give them that. So I hit them with the press and punish them as mighty wins, says PSG beat Monaco 5-2 at the weekend. So at this point, usually I am the quiz master, but we're going to let Aaron take the baton this week.
So I've got, since it's my week in the host and chair for once, I've got 2 different trivia questions. Both are quite topical, to be fair. I'm going to give you the really hard one first.
Okay. Do I need a piece of paper?
I think you'd probably be better on this one. This one will be tricky. I'm not denying that you will maybe struggle with this, but I'll back you, given your extensive Newcastle United knowledge. So we all know Newcastle United have got injury problems at the minute. 14 players, for various reasons, will be missing for PSG. Many people have related it to the 2006 injury crisis under Glenn Roeder. Now, when this crisis was at its peak, on the 30th of December 2006, they got beat 3-0 at Everton. And these were the players that were missing for Glenn Roeder's side. Celestine Babayaro, Stephen Carr, Titus Bramble, Craig Moore, Damien Duff, Michael Owen, Amiobi, and Zogbia, Olivier Bernard, and Albert Luque all missed out but can you name me the starting 11 from that team?
You know what? I thought you were going to make me name the injuries. That would have been slightly easier.
So the Premier League official website has the formation down as a 3-6-1. Don't know how that works. Didn't know Glenn Rivera had that in his locker. And I will say, lots was made about the fact that he was going to have to name a defence with the average age of 20. So that gives you a little bit of clue as to who was in the defence. And just to run through those injuries again, Babiaro, Carr, Bramble, Moore, Damien Duff, Michael Owen, Amiobi, Charles Nzogbia, and Olivier Bernard all missed out.
All right, okay. It's Chopra the man up front.
Chopra, 2006? No.
2006 now.
I don't even think he was in the squad.
Patterson
He was on the bench.
was he on the bench. He could have started him.
You've got players in the starting 11 that
Nicky Butt.
Yeah, Nicky Butt was in the
Nicky
midfield.
Butt in the midfield,
He's
right?
He's one of 6 in the midfield.
Nicky Butt. Trying to think on that time. See, this is a lot harder being on this side of the.
It's hard, isn't it, when you've got no notice as well?
In midfield, Stephen Taylor.
He started as one of the 3 in defence.
Okay, in goal. In goal, we're not. Do you want us to name the keeper?
Yeah, the goalkeeper.
Steve Harper.
No.
Givens.
Shea
Givens.
Shea Given. He overcame a hamstring injury to be fit.
What was the American defender called who was on loan?
He joined 3 days later in the 2007 window. So to give you
have to give us some clues.
I'll give you some clues. So we'll start with the midfield, because the midfield you should get really.
But speed, speed left in a.
So you had a very famous right midfielder at the club who returned. So that was Solano. He passed a late fitness test to be fit. Bobby Robson's favourite.
Bobby Robson's favourite.
Or this person always had a very close relationship with Bobby Robson before he left. Went sour.
Genius.
The other one.
Dyer.
Passed a late fitness test. One player later in the season got banned for racism, or got charged for racism.
Emery
in the midfield. It's one of the 6. This man famously won the Intertoto Cup. Scott Parker. And won the final of the 6 midfielders. Premier League legend. Not with Newcastle. Left Newcastle far too soon.
James Milner.
Jamie Milner.
So he's the 6th in midfield.
He's the 6th in midfield.
Goodness, who's playing in the middle? So Miller must have been on the left. Then.
Yeah, you think so. So you now need the 2 defenders. Remember that there's the average age of 20. And
David Edgar.
No, but he was on the bench.
Oh, Howe.
But he partnered somebody in defence the next game against Manchester United.
It's too early for Paul Dummett. Way too early.
One of the 3 defenders works at the club at the moment.
One of the 3 defenders works at the club at the moment. Oh, goodness me.
We've got some people in the comments here saying Charles Nzogbia, he was injured. Someone saying Shane Ferguson, too early. Roger Cook saying the Aussie defender, I think he means Craig Moore. Oh, Billy might have just got it.
Ramage, always
Peter Ramage. And I'll give you the other defender because I don't think you'll get it. Paul Huntington. And the striker, I mean, you should get this. Newcastle United number 9. We spoke about him last week.
Martins.
Obafemi Martins.
Martins, okay.
So the team was Shea Given, Peter Ramage, Paul Huntington, Stephen Taylor, Solano, Emery, Dyer, Parker, Milner, Butt, Martins. And the bench was Cernacek, David Edgar, Matty Patterson, Antoine Sobieski, and Giuseppe Rossi.
Giuseppe Rossi. Remember everyone who signed him and everyone thought it would be absolute masterstroke. His career went downhill. Go on then.
So that was the hard one. I've got a much easier one. Now that was going to be the trivia. And then I went on Twitter this morning and I saw that Manchester United's win over Everton yesterday means they're the first club in Premier League history to keep 500 clean sheets.
Yeah.
Now Newcastle have only kept 286. But I want you to give me, well, there's 2 ways we can do this. Either I can give you the top 5 and you can put them in order.
Top 5.
In terms of how many, like the goalkeepers that have kept the most clean sheets in the Premier League.
I'll just go for it.
Okay.
Given's got to be first.
Yeah. 89.
Tim Krul.
Yep, he is second with 41.
Yeah, Tim Krul. I don't think Nick Pope's third.
He's not third.
I think he's in the top 5. I think he's 5th.
He's 5th with 19.
Then I'm just trying to think. It was Tim. It's going to Cernacek, Hislop. Right. And then we've got Harper can't be in that, surely.
Harper has got 23. He's fourth.
What was
You've got
that?
one more, and he kept 37 clean
Oh,
sheets.
Mr. Dubravka.
Mr. Martin Dubravka.
All right.
An honourable shout out to Carl Darla, who kept 9.
There we go on the list. Do you know what? I prefer to be the quiz master. And next week it'll be back to normal because that was awful. But thank you very much. Nice to freshen it up every now and then. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit subscribe through whichever platform you are tuned in through, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on the podcast channel. And please share the episode across your social media channels and help it get out to a wider audience and share it amongst your Newcastle United supporting friends and family. We, as always, appreciate your support. For me and Adam, we'll see you guys very soon. Head over to chroniclelive.co.uk for all the latest Newcastle United news, including the build-up to Newcastle United versus PSG over in Paris. We have Eddie Howe's press conference on Monday evening. The team are training as well, and of course, live coverage of the game on Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. kickoff. We'll see you guys there.